Some of you might have caught wind of what possibly might be regarded as the biggest legal gaming news out there. And in a way, it has nothing to do with gaming per se, but rather the fact that the state of California, to be very precise and to be even more specific, California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing has decided to press a lawsuit against Blizzard Activision. And there's so much involved in this story, so I want to talk about the most salient, relevant aspects and factors here. I want to say at the outset, I'm certainly not on the side of California or the government of California. I think California is an awful state, terrible state, never liked it, and I am certainly not an ally of the state. On the other hand, I'm not a fan or an ally of Blizzard Activision. I've never really been a big aficionado of their games, but I have friends and acquaintances who do play the games, and in general it seems that they've really been slacking off, and the games that they make tend to be fairly terrible. And at the outset, I just want to put that out there. I'm not supportive of any of the parties particularly. But what this is about, effectively, is alleged claims of quote-unquote frat boy behavior, bro behavior in the workplace, at Blizzard offices, that is. And some of the claims are so outrageous and so beyond the ken of what you might expect that it does strain credulity, which is to say, I'm not entirely sure if it's true. Some of the claims, for example, are that there would be regular drunken parties during which males, exclusively males, would crawl on all fours, inebriated, and make jokes, including things you're not supposed to say on YouTube. Another claim would be that there was constant sexual harassment of the female employees there, constant. Another claim, which strikes me personally as the oddest of all of them, is this idea that the men employed at Blizzard were doing virtually nothing, just hanging out playing video games, and the women were doing all of the work. Now, I'm sure there's some hyperbole in this. It simply can't be the case that things were constantly this way, because nothing works that way. And it doesn't seem very likely that the men were doing absolutely nothing. Of course, when you're getting these news bits, they're going for the jugular. They're going for the juiciest bits, and they're going to engage in hyperbole and exaggerate quite a bit. It's obvious. And so we just don't know the degree of all of this. However, there are a couple of interesting things at play here. Number one, obviously, is I don't think this has ever happened before, that a video game developer or publisher has been sued at the state level by a major arm of the government. Now, I'd also say that irrespective of what happened, if somebody from the government, an arm of the government, were to sue a video game developer or company, it would be California, right? California is the epicenter of all things social justice and of the entirety of progressive culture. Of course, there are other parts of the country that have this, and thus it's not really a surprise that California would go after them. I might add, for example, that whatever the ultimate reality or truth behind the behavior of the employees at Blizzard, does the state of California have a pressing reason? Who really knows? Probably. I don't think they would try to press a lawsuit if, in fact, they didn't think they had good reasons to do so or they were incapable of winning. But it really just goes to show how far the company has gone down the tubes one way or another. Because the thing that irks me in all this, and this goes well beyond Blizzard Activision, this point speaks broadly to gaming, game development, and not even just game development, corporate America as a whole, or throughout the West, is the intense, and I do mean insane amount of hypocrisy embodied in institutions such as Blizzard Activision, who have been pushing, bankrolling, and inserting quote-unquote social justice, progressive values, politics in all of their games for quite some time now. And they're not the only ones. I can think of Ubisoft. I can think of a whole bunch of companies, developers, publishers who do this. And if, in fact, even half of the allegations are true, being leveled at Blizzard Activision, they're a bunch of hypocrites. It renders everything they say about social justice and progressive politics and the way that the player base that they have should be acting null and void for a couple of reasons. The most important one being that a guy who likes to look at big-titted anime girls or hot women in chainmail bikinis or whatever in the form of pixelation, this is condemned and reviled as horrible and virulent, and you can add any adjective you want. But these guys aren't going out actually harassing people and or women. So the degree here of hypocrisy is hard to fathom. And so you have these companies talking down to the player base who buy their games not because of the politics they inject in all of this, but in spite of the politics. People don't like this stuff. They don't like the ruination of aesthetics. You should see some of the stuff regarding the Diablo 2 remastered. They're actually turning the women into men. I kid you not. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not engaging in hyperbole. Go check out the current art design for the Amazon. It looks like a middle-aged man jacked up on TRT. I kid you not. All this stuff, right? They push this stuff on the player base. The player base still kind of likes the games, and so they buy it. And this is not just applicable to Blizzard, but rather any of the AAA publishers. And you have this other phenomenon that goes on there where apparently they're doing some pretty naughty stuff in their offices and work. And to a much lesser degree, this didn't turn into a lawsuit. The same thing happened or has happened with Ubisoft. All sorts of allegations of sexual harassment and unfair pay and treatment in the workplace and yada, yada, yada. Maybe it's true. Probably some of it is. But the hypocrisy is what gets on my nerves. And it should get on yours as well. Because it's safe to assume that the corporate elements of these companies, publishers, developers, do not give a whit, any fecal matter, about all the stuff that they typically preach in their PR campaigns. Diversity, inclusivity, social justice, progressive politics, yada, yada, yada. It's simply not the case that the corporate heads really care about that. I mean, Bobby Kotick, probably the greediest man within the gaming industry, quite possibly, guaranteed does not care about this stuff. He's the CEO of Blizzard Activision, by the way. And then, of course, you also have the question of how ideologically penetrated these companies are at the end of the day. It's an open discussion. From the corporate aspect, obviously, it's for the sake of PR, for the sake of self-protection. But at the level of development, well, typically people on the left are more creative than people on the right, and so they tend to get more involved in these artistic/creative endeavors. It's entirely possible that a lot of this ideological fervor is authentic and people actually believe this stuff. I'm not so sure one way or another. There might be a few people who do, and the rest are just saying, well, let's just cover all our bases so we don't get in trouble, but it's not entirely clear. But it's not just games. Everyone is towing the line when it comes to progressive culture or politics. And call me skeptical, but I don't think most people at the top care. That is corporate. And I'm not even sure if people in the middle care, and certainly consumers broadly do not care. I remain somewhat convinced, until I see evidence to the contrary, that the vast majority of people are not possessed of this fervent, progressive, ideological religion and seek to spread it everywhere. Of course, there are these people, probably in goodly numbers, for all I know. But most people play video games, buy shoes, buy products, are just normal people. Now, they might lean, due to the overwhelming cultural influence, progressive, and they might espouse these things nominally and might be intolerant of certain viewpoints, but I don't think they're nearly as obsessed as the few who tend to push this stuff are. And specifically in the case of Blizzard Activision, they have been on the decline for quite some time. People are leaving World of Warcraft in droves, and really they and the rest of us who happen to be gamers, all that we want is for publishers and developers to make good games, ideally free of real-world ideology. You can create a very complex game, depending on the genre, that has intricate politics and culture and all these things that have nothing to do with real-world politics, which was the way it was traditionally done. Not so much anymore. All that we want, that is, consumers, is good products. Games, shoes, sneakers, whatever it might be, make good products free of the ideology. Now, on a final note, I think that Blizzard Activision will survive this, probably, and they may even relocate. There are still states within the United States that are far too conservative to go about pressing lawsuits of this sort. Now, I don't think this is guaranteed to happen, but what if after this, whether they win or lose, Blizzard Activision says, well, why don't we just head to North or South Dakota? Do you really think a state such as North Dakota would sue Blizzard Activision over this? Well, maybe, it's possible, but it's very unlikely. And barring that option, they could go to other countries in the world that don't care anything about this sort of thing. So there's still options available for them. And again, I'm not on Blizzard Activision's side, but really the takeaway from all this is that there's just massive hypocrisy going on with these companies, these developers, these publishers, and the player base really is the one that suffers the most. Sure, the employees, if in fact all this is true, they're suffering too, but they're also producing bad games. If they're working at Blizzard, for example, everyone involved, whoever was doing the work or not doing the work, they're not making good games anymore. So the consumer is really the person who gets the shortest end of the stick here and apparently has the least voice. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be informed of my videos because YouTube throttles my views this way and many people aren't informed. As always, if I'm still alive, I'll check you out later. May the gods watch over you. You take care of yourself. Bye-bye. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.